Glib Audiostories presents The Psychic, Episode 8 by Silas Scott and Pinkleet. Content warning, strong language and mentions of suicidal ideation. Gideon opened the door to his apartment with a loud, "We're home!" Holding his hand would be a small blonde girl who jumped up and down yelling, "We're home!" with him, excited. Rob was napping on the couch, sucking his thumb as he did. At the loud call, he jumped awake and looked around quickly, calming slightly when he saw his uncle and the little girl. The little girl would let go of Gideon's hand and rush over to the couch. "Hi, I'm Ava," she'd say, bouncing on her toes as she looked at Rob with dark blue eyes. Rob wiped his eyes of the sleep that was in them. It was honestly a little overwhelming. "Hi." "Daddy says you're my cousin. Did you travel here from far away? I like your hair. It's so curly. Can I braid your hair sometime?" she'd say, asking questions quickly. Rob froze to the girl's questions. He didn't talk, didn't move. Gideon would walk over and kneel down. "Hey, Ava, why don't you go get changed out of your school uniform and we can go to the mall?" Ava would nod quickly, running into her room and shutting the door behind her. "Sorry that we scared you. Ava has a lot of energy," Gideon said with a shrug. "You didn't scare me." "Yes, they did." Gideon nodded. "Were you okay while I was gone?" "Mm-hmm." Rob nodded. Gideon would smile at Rob. "I'm glad. And let me know if Ava's energy is too much for you. I'll tell her to calm down." "Thanks." He sent a sheepish smile at the man. He probably wouldn't tell him, though. He didn't want to be rude. Ava would open the door, walk out, and hold her hands up in triumph. "I'm ready," she'd say proudly. Rob laughed a bit. Ava would walk over, reaching for Rob's hand to pull him off the couch. "Come on, Cousin Rob, let's go shopping," she'd say, excited. He would let his hand be pulled, but raise a brow at Gideon. He didn't grow up with any siblings, and he had barely remembered a lot of his childhood, and even then, he was the one experiencing it from the kid's point of view, so this was actually pretty weird and confusing to him. Gideon would shrug at Rob, smiling as Ava led Rob to the elevator. She would press the button, swaying as they went down. "Cousin Rob, how old are you?" she would ask. 18, and, you don't have to call me cousin. It's just Rob." "But Daddy says you're my cousin?" Ava would say, a little confused, looking between the two men. "Yeah, but—" He stopped himself, sighing. "Never mind." He didn't want to make her sad, and if she liked calling him cousin as the title, more power to her. "Ava, he'll still be your cousin, even if you don't call him cousin directly," Gideon said, stepping in. Ava's mouth would make a small O shape as she nodded. "Do you want me to call you cousin?" she asked Rob. It's okay." He felt like he was being put on the spot suddenly. "You can if you want to." "Yay!" Ava would say, excited. "I love the mall. Do you like the mall, Cousin Rob? What's your favorite store?" she asked, leading him out of the elevator to the car parked out front. If Rob was paying attention, it was the same car and driver that had picked him up before. Rob rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "Oh, I've never actually—" When the car came up, he was somewhat relieved and somewhat confused. Relieved because that meant that maybe he wouldn't have to finish that sentence, and confused because he did in fact notice that it was the same car. Ava and Gideon would get into the car, Ava giving a big hello to the driver lady, whose name was apparently Martha. She would look back at Rob. "So, what's your favorite color?" Rob would look around the car as he got in. "My favorite... Oh, I don't know." Ava would tilt her head, blinking, a little confused. She'd open her mouth to say something, but Gideon spoke before her. "So, Ava, how was school today?" Ava's full attention would be pulled as she started to go into detail about her day happily. Rob let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. He was visibly relieved that the spotlight wasn't on him anymore. The car pulled up to a mall relatively fast. Ava jumped out of the car, taking Gideon's hand as the two waited for Rob before walking inside. Rob would follow, though slightly behind. They walked into the mall. Since it was around noon on a Friday, it wasn't too packed, but not empty either. "Do you want to walk around and look for a store that you want to check out, Rob?" Gideon asked. "Who, me?" Rob blinked. "I don't really know what I like," he said slowly. "I always either just wore my school uniform or wore the nice clothes Dad approved of." "Then we can look in all the stores," Ava would say, excited. Gideon would nod. We can just look around till you see something you like and want to try on. Oh, okay. Rob walked with them until they hit the first store. After looking around a long while, he held up a plain black t-shirt. Uh, is this okay? If you want it, sure, Gideon said with a smile. Ava would tilt her head. Is black your favorite color? Rob looked at it again. Huh? Oh, no, I don't think so, he said to Ava, but kept the shirt. Why don't we get some in your favorite color, too? She said, excited. And we can get some with iCarly and Taylor Swift and... Gideon cut Ava off. No, Ava, we're shopping for Rob. We need to let him decide. Ava nodded. Okay, Daddy. I like all colors, Rob shrugged. And I don't know what any of those are. I think I've heard of Taylor Swift, but, I don't even know what she's in. Ava would gasp. Taylor Swift is the best singer ever. Ava would then go into great detail about Taylor Swift. Oh. Rob actually kind of enjoyed listening to her ramble. A little ways into the shopping trip, they would walk by a long green skirt, which his eyes widened slightly at in admiration. But his cheeks flushed as well. Gross, Rob. You can't buy a skirt. Why? What, you want to be a girl? And he probably wouldn't buy it for you anyway. Ava would gasp at the skirt. Daddy, look how pretty it is, she said, running up to touch it. Gideon would chuckle. It's not really your size, Ava, but we can see if they do have something that could fit you. I'll look just like Princess Ariel, she said. Then looking at Rob. Who's your favorite princess, Rob? Rob would sniff. Oh, I don't know any princesses. He was a little distracted as he walked up to the skirt and felt it. God, the material was so nice, though, and flowy. What? Ava said, gasping. You don't know any? Well, Mommy says I look like Cinderella, but I really, really like Ariel. She's a mermaid, Ava would say, starting to ramble about Disney princesses. Oh, mermaids are cool. Hey, you guys should go off on your own. I'll be fine looking myself, I think, and, I'll call you when I want to buy something. Oh, Ava would say, looking a little sad. Okay, then. Gideon walked over. Come on, Ava. You and I will go to the Justice store. He would hand Rob a credit card. Just buy what you want, and we'll meet you at the fountain at the center of the mall in an hour. Sound good? Rob's eyes would light up at that. Yes, maybe he could sneak it back then. He tried not to sound too excited. Thanks. As soon as they left, Rob would try on the skirt. It was so comfortable and so flowy. He loved the flowery designs on it and the way it spun when he did. He checked the price tag. $30. No way he would notice if Rob bought other things to go along with it. So, that he did. He bought a few t-shirts, many of them green or with a lot of green on them, but with designs as well. He bought a corduroy jacket, and he'd buy a few jeans and a couple of pairs of shorts. An hour later, Gideon would be waiting by the fountain with Ava, who was playing with a doll it seemed they had bought. Ava would see Rob first and wave at him with a big smile. Rob sent an awkward smile back and waved as he came up to them. He seemed happier now. Find things you liked? Gideon asked happily. Yeah, he grinned. That's great. How about we grab a bit to eat, then go back to the apartment? Gideon asked, with Ava perking up at the mention of food. Rob nodded. Okay, that sounds great, actually. You pick where we eat at, Cousin Rob, Ava said, holding her doll to her chest. Oh, I don't know many restaurants, actually. Sorry. Can we eat at McDonald's? Ava would ask. Gideon would hesitate, then nod. All right, but just for today. We're not going to eat there all the time. Ava would squeal with joy. Does McDonald's really make your stomach hurt? Rob asked hesitantly as they walked. Not unless you overeat. It can be a bit unhealthy, so I don't want Ava to eat it all the time. But this is a special day, Gideon said softly to Rob as Ava held his hand and walked with them, humming to herself. Rob would smile a bit at that. Oh, okay, thanks. They would go to the same car, still waiting outside for them, and jump in. The car would stop at a nearby McDonald's, and the three would walk out. Once inside, Ava would run to the counter, asking for a Happy Meal. Gideon would follow behind her, then saying to Rob, Just look at the menu and order what you want. Rob stared at the menu, then ordered some chicken nuggets, fries, and a water. It took him a while, considering the kids playing on the playground distracted him severely. Gideon would pay for the food, and the three of them would sit down until the food was ready. Gideon brought it to the table, with Ava opening her Happy Meal happily. She'd munch on some fries as she asked, "Cousin Rob, do you have a job?" Rob just kind of stared at his food for a minute. Huh? Uh, yeah, I used to. I mean, kind of. I was a cashier. Was? Ava would ask, confused. Yeah, I mean, they kind of fired me. My boss was part of the church, so when I left, he kind of... Rob cleared his throat. Yeah. That wasn't entirely true. Yes, they fired him, and yes, the manager was a member of the church, but they fired him for smoking on his break. Though Rob didn't think his departure from the religion had nothing to do with it. Why would you get fired for not going to church? Were you mean to the priest? Ava asked, confused. No, Ava, it's not like what you're thinking. I can explain it to you later, Gideon said quickly. Oh, okay, Ava said without hesitation. Rob would let out a shaky breath, still eyeing his food, seeming unsure. Rob, could you watch Ava for a moment? I have to use the restroom, Gideon said, standing up from the chair. Rob's eyes widened slightly. He didn't know how to watch a kid? Yeah, sure. Gideon smiled and headed to the bathroom. Ava seemed unbothered as she ate her food, swinging her legs. Where's your mommy and daddy? She asked randomly. Rob was just about to eat his food when she asked that, and he hesitated. He suddenly became very interested in eating. I don't know, he'd say, chewing a piece of chicken. Ava tilted her head. What do you mean? My mom's somewhere in a different state, and, my dad is somewhere. I don't really keep track of him anymore. Why? Ava asked, taking a drink from her cup as she looked at Rob. Rob would take a drink of water and say into his cup, Because they're assholes. What's an asshole? Ava would ask, repeating the last words slowly. Rob would spit his water back into the cup. It's a not nice word for a butthole, I guess. A butthole? She would repeat, the bridge of her nose crinkling in confusion. Yeah, it's like the hole the poop comes out of. It's just a name for someone who's mean, but it's not appropriate, so, you shouldn't say it. Why did you say it then? She'd ask, dipping her fry in some ketchup. Because, I don't know, because it's the best way to describe them. So they're mean? Ava would ask slowly, trying to piece it together. Yeah, he sighed. Is that why Daddy doesn't let me see Auntie Lizzie often? Ava asked, still swinging her legs. Rob stopped eating. I guess. Well, I don't like mean people, Ava would say curtly. But you're nice, so I like you. Rob just said a short, thanks. You don't talk much, Ava would state, looking at Rob. Rob put his chin in his hand and shook his head. I just don't know what to say. That's okay. I can talk enough for 3 people. That's what my bubby says, Ava would say with a smile. Rob laughed a bit at that. Then, what's a bubby? It means grandmother in Yiddish, Ava said with a smile. Rob tilted his head curiously. What's that? It's a language. I only know a few words, Ava said with a shrug. Oh, where's it from? Gideon would walk back from the bathroom, sitting down next to them. How's everyone's meals? He asked. Ava would smile. Good. Oh, Daddy, where's Yiddish from? Gideon would think. I think it's from Israel? Oh, okay. Rob nodded at that. I'm glad the food's good. When we get back, I'll help Ava with her homework, and you can put some of your new things away, Gideon said with a smile. Rob smiled, thinking about the skirt, and nodded. Yeah, sure. Ava would finish her meal up, and once Rob was done, the 3 would leave at the restaurant. Ava would chat away about different topics as they reached the apartment. When they got back, Rob would put his clothes away, but would look at the skirt for a long minute before glancing at the mirror and deciding to put it on again. He closed the door, but didn't lock it, and put the skirt on. Rob would hear Ava and Gideon talking outside, something about math homework. He didn't even pay attention to the noise outside as he watched himself and spun around. He was grinning the whole time. Ava and Gideon would work on Ava's homework for about an hour before Rob would hear her little footsteps walking into her room next to his and going in. Then he would hear a knock on his own door. "Rob, you okay?" he heard Gideon ask. Rob had spent the entire hour just twirling his new skirt and taking shitty pictures with his flip phone. So when he heard the knock on the door, he jumped. Yeah, I'm fine." "All right. I have to do some work on the computer, so I'll be in my room. Ava's playing in her room now, too. If you need anything, don't hesitate to ask," Gideon said gently. Rob let out a relieved breath. "Okay," he called back. "Thanks." "No problem," Gideon called out, then walking away. Rob would then hear some music coming from Ava's room and the little girl singing along with it. Rob quickly changed into the night clothes the man had lent him the night before and tucked the skirt deep into his drawer. He would lie down in bed, feeling a little tired. Another knock would be heard on Rob's door. "Rob, do you want to watch The Little Mermaid with me?" Ava asked. I'm kinda tired, kid." "Okay, then, I'll see if Daddy can watch it," she said, walking away. Rob quickly fell asleep. Oddly enough, didn't have any nightmares that night. When he woke up, the smell of freshly made waffles filled the air. If he left his room, he saw Gideon in the kitchen, cooking food. Gideon would smile at Rob. "Good morning. Sleep well?" Rob walked into the kitchen with a sleepy smile on his face. At the question, he looked up. "Yeah, actually." "Glad to hear it," Gideon would say with a smile. "Want some waffles?" "Sure. What are waffles?" "It's a breakfast food made from dough. It's really good. You can add strawberries and syrup to it," Gideon said, putting a plate in front of Rob. "Give it a try." "Oh, okay." Rob would pick up the waffle whole. "Whoa," Gideon said. "It's not a finger food. You need to cut it up in pieces that'll fit in your mouth," he said, holding out a fork and knife. Rob froze, then slowly put it down. Sorry." "It's okay. You're just learning," Gideon said with a smile. "I had to learn too." Rob would send him a small smile and begin to cut up the waffle. Gideon would finish making the rest of the waffles, setting them down for Ava when she woke up. "Do you have work today?" Rob tilted his head and asked after he swallowed. "I try to stay free on the weekends when I have Ava, or if her mom needs me to watch her during the week," Gideon said with a shrug, "though I do work a lot." Rob blinked. "Does that mean no?" "No work today," Gideon said with a smile. "But if I'm called in for an emergency, I'll probably see if Melissa, Ava's mom, or her grandmother can come over to watch you two. Not that you need watching, it's more for Ava." Rob nodded. "Okay." He liked the sound of that. He did not feel fit to watch Ava on his own if an emergency did occur. "But for today, we can do anything. We could go to the park or just stay at home. I think if you decide before Ava wakes up, you'll have more control over what we do today." Rob shrugged. "We could go to the park?" He smiled a sort of half-smile, though it was clearly genuine. Suddenly remembering the skirt, he looked back down at his plate. Wait, why did he feel guilty? Maybe because this man had only been nice to him since they'd met, and now he was lying to him, or at least hiding something. "Sounds good. We'll have a fun day at the park. Hopefully it'll wear Ava out," Gideon said with a chuckle. "Yeah." Rob was picking at his food now, eyeing it. "Oh, if you want to eat anything else, do tell me so I can either make it or have it brought up," Gideon would say. Rob was silent for a minute, then, "Maybe I could put strawberries on it?" "Sure thing," Gideon said, passing over the strawberries. Rob bit his lip and started putting them onto his waffle. "Thanks. It's, really good, by the way." "Thanks," Gideon said with a smile. His phone would ring, and he would hold up a finger, walking away to answer it. Rob let out a breath at the call. He was contemplating telling him, but the phone ringing had saved him from making a decision. Rob would hear Gideon talking in another room, quickly, but in a hushed tone, too quiet for Rob to make out anything. Though he couldn't, his ears automatically tried to listen in. Rob wouldn't hear much, but did hear a few key words: divider, intern, and protocol 57. He furrowed his brow slightly as he ate. Gideon would still be talking on the phone as Ava walked out of her room in a pair of matching pink pajamas. She would yawn and rub her eyes as she walked over. "Good morning," she said sleepily, sitting next to Rob as she pulled a plate of waffles up to her. "Morning." He smiled a little, though it didn't spread to his eyes. "I had a dream that there was water all the way up to the apartment, and I got to swim with dolphins that took me to Atlantis," she said randomly. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, she said, then munching on her food. I didn't have any dreams, he shrugged. I learned at school that we always have dreams. We just don't remember them sometimes, Ava said, swinging her legs and looking at Rob. Oh? Well, then I didn't remember any. He'd continue to eat. Ava would take another bite, happily. Are you going to live with my daddy now? She asked. Rob cleared his throat. Uh, I don't know. I don't think so. Why? She asked, her tone not sounding upset or judgmental, but more of one of curiosity. Because I don't think he wants another kid to look after. Kids are a pain, you know. They are? She asked, confused. I'm not a pain. Mommy and Daddy love me, and so does Bubby and Zadie and all my friends. Maybe, but trust me, I am. How are you a pain? She asked, still confused. Rob shook his head and looked down. I just am, okay? But why? She'd say, her nose crinkling in confusion. You've only been fun so far. I don't know. Look, adults don't usually like me. Kids sure, but not dads. Do you hang out with dads a lot? She'd asked, picking up her orange juice and taking a sip. Nah, he said, sniffling a bit. Then how do you know that dads don't like you? I think my daddy likes you. Because, okay? That's not an answer, Ava would say with a chuckle. Rob sighed. Look, your dad wouldn't like me if you knew more about me. I'm just a bad kid. I do bad things like drink and get mad fast. It's just how I am. I'm crazy, and that's why dads don't like me, and that's why your dad's not going to like me for much longer, and I'll probably have to leave him like I did my dad. It's just how it is, okay? Can we please talk about something else? Oh, you think he won't like you because you're like him? She said, tilting her head. I don't know. He deals with a lot of mean people at work. I think you'll be okay, she'd say with a shrug. Rob stopped. What do you mean, like him? Daddy gets mad fast, too. He's never been mad at me, but one time me, Mommy, and Daddy were at a park and some people tried to talk to us about religion, and he got really mad at them, she said casually. Oh, Rob would scoff. Yeah, well, I'd get mad at that too. But he doesn't get mad when Bubby wants to take me to synagogue or other things like that, she'd say with a shrug. Some religions are just bad. Mommy says I'll understand when I'm bigger. Yeah, that. Do you not like Daddy? She asked him. What? No, yeah, I like him. Then why do you think he won't like you? I like you, so I know he will. Okay. Yay, she said out loud. Do you want to go fish after breakfast? I don't really like card games. Oh, well, what do you like to do? She asked, picking up her plate and putting it in the sink. He shrugged, doing the same. Candyland? She asked, starting to list off games Rob may know. He shrugged. Never heard of that one. What games do you know then? She asked, leaning forward on the counter. Like Scrabble, Pictionary? But we didn't play a lot of games when I was a kid. Let's play Pictionary then. I'm really good at drawing, she said, bouncing. Rob hesitated, confused. I thought we were going to the park. We're going to the park? Ava asked, excited. We have to get dressed then, she'd say, running to her room. Rob laughed a bit lightly. He glanced over to the room Gideon was in, wondering if they were still on for going. Ava would take a few minutes getting ready before running out and seeing Rob still not dressed. Come on, Cousin Rob, get dressed so we can go, she'd say, running into his room. Rob didn't know it, but he had forgotten to put his skirt away after wearing it for a second time that night. Rob didn't realize that the skirt was out, but he still said, Ava, wait, I'm not sure we're going. Your dad's on a call. He'll be ready. He's watching us now, she said, rushing into the room. Rob would then hear a gasp, with Ava walking out with a big smile. It's the mermaid skirt, she said, excited. Rob's hand flew to his mouth suddenly. Shit. Ava, you gotta be quiet, okay? He responded quickly, his voice hushed. Just shh. Ava would point at Rob. You said a bad word, Rob, she'd say in a sing-song tone, a small smile on her face. I didn't mean to. Ava, please shut up. Look, I'm not supposed to have this, so just, please? What? Why can't you have this? She said, twirling the skirt up to her chest, watching it flow around as she did. He would try to take the skirt from her. Because I'm a boy. It has to stay a secret, okay? Rob would pull the skirt from Ava as she looked at him, very confused. What does you being a boy have to do with it? You know, he'd say, folding it up and laying it on the bed. Boys aren't supposed to wear skirts. What about kilts? She asked. I saw a lot of boys wearing kilts, and those are skirts, she said, raising up her finger in a matter-of-fact way. Those are different, and if guys wore those here, people would make fun of them. How are they different? She asked. And just so you know, they were wearing them here, and I didn't see anyone making fun of them. Huh? Wait, where? Down by the river. They were having some sort of festival or something, she said with a shrug. Oh, but look, I just don't think your daddy would like it if he found out I bought a skirt with his money, so he put a finger to his lips. Ava would make a very confused face. Why don't you think he would like it? Rob sighed. Because dads just don't. Ava would look down, then back up to Rob. Okay. I won't tell, I guess, she said hesitantly. But I don't want to keep secrets, she would say, her bottom lip trembling. Rob's breath shook. I'm sorry. Please don't cry. Can we just tell Daddy? I'm sure he won't be mad. Rob's face contorted. Then, okay, look, I'm not going to get you in trouble too, he said, resigned. I'll tell him. But you have to wait. He's on the phone still. His voice was suddenly hoarse. Yeah. The skirt's really pretty, by the way, she'd say, reaching out her small hand to touch the fabric. Thanks. Rob's face was red. It feels really nice. Suede. What's weighted mean? She'd asked, tilting her head. It means it's got a weight to it. Like it's kind of heavyish at the bottom. A lot of fabric. Oh, she said, nodding. That's cool. Yeah. Rob was starting to feel at least a little bit better. At least while he kept his mind off what was to come. Rob would hear the door open as Gideon stepped out, sighing to himself softly. He would look over and smile. Hey, you two. I see you got dressed, Ava, he said with a chuckle. Ava would smile and run up to Gideon. Daddy, Rob says we're going to the park today. Gideon would nod. Yes, we are. Rob would freeze as soon as the man walked out, and his eyes would swell up with tears. He stood in front of the skirt, though facing Gideon in the hopes of hiding it, with wide eyes and clenched fists. He cleared his throat. Gideon? Hypothetically, how would you react when you get mad? Gideon would look very concerned and confused. Why? Did something happen? No one's hurt, right? He'd say, looking over to Ava to see if she was hurt, then looking at Rob to check if he was injured. No, Rob said quickly, then under his breath, but I might be in a second. Gideon, I kind of sort of bought the skirt with your money. I didn't mean to. I mean, I kind of did, but it just felt so nice, and I really liked it, and I'm sorry. He was full on crying now, as he said quickly, I can punish myself. You don't have to get mad. Gideon would put Ava down, walking over to Rob and kneeling down so they were on the same eye level. Hey, don't cry. I'm not upset, and you don't have to be punished. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm sorry, I didn't... Rob stopped in his tracks. He opened his eyes slightly, though his brow furrowed, and he remained staring at the ground. What? It's okay, Gideon said gently, reaching out to touch Rob's shoulder. I told you to buy what you wanted, and if it makes you happy, then it's fine. You don't need to cry. I'm not mad. Rob hesitated. But I can't wear it out, he put slowly. Of course you can, Gideon said, standing up. You can wear whatever you want. Rob would watch him, confused. But that's weird, right? Some may think so, Gideon said with a shrug, but in the end their opinions don't matter. What matters is what you want, as long as it's safe and not illegal. Oh? Rob was still speaking slow, as if he were trying too hard to understand, which he was. Okay. Gideon gave Rob a reassuring smile. You still want to go to the park? He asked. Rob hesitated but nodded, sniffling a bit. He tested the waters. Can I wear it today? Sure, Gideon said with a nod, then chuckling. I'd join you, but I don't think we have any in my size. Rob was just so confused. He couldn't fathom how Gideon could just not be mad over this. He just nodded. Gideon and Ava would wait for Rob to get dressed. Ava would squeal in delight at Rob in the skirt, jumping up and down at the sight of it. Rob came out deadpan, but when he saw Ava so happy, he actually let out a little laugh. He was fanning himself and looked down at the skirt as he swished side to side. Come on, Cousin Rob, I want to go on the swings, Ava said, grabbing his hand and pulling him to the door. Gideon would grab a coat and put it on, watching them with a smile. Rob let a crooked smile fall onto his face. Huh, maybe all parents really aren't like his father. Maybe he's finally found a place where he can unabashedly be himself. Ava led the two to the elevator, chatting away the whole time she did so. They would reach the bottom of the elevator and walk out the door towards the park. Rob swished the skirt the whole way, yawning a bit as he did so. Once they reached the park, Ava would rush to the swings. Sitting down, she'd kick her legs in an attempt to swing as high as she could. Gideon would walk over to a bench, sitting down to watch her play. Rob would sit on the bench as well. After a minute of silence, he said, Hey, thanks. For what? Gideon asked softly. Rob shrugged. For not hating me? I couldn't hate you, Rob, Gideon said, rubbing his knees and leaning back. You're a good person who grew up in a bad situation. Rob made a face at that, half of his face scrunched as he stared at the floor. You sure about that? I'm sure, Gideon said, nodding. I can't hate my sister even though I strongly disagree with her choices. Rob sighed. I think I hate her. Is that bad? Gideon would sigh. I can't tell you how you're feeling, though I can completely understand being utterly angry with her. She lets herself be controlled by fear. He'd grow silent. She gave me away, too, in a way. I was 15 when I left the cult. I lived on the streets till I was found by good people. My adoptive father brought me to her and gave her a choice. To take care of me herself, or to sign her rights away to being my guardian. She signed it away without a fight. It saved me a load of trouble considering I had done some not so good things, but it still hurt to see her just lay over and not try to help me. Gideon, is my mom a bad person? Gideon would press his lips together, then say, No, she's made bad choices, but she isn't a bad person. Rob's face turned to disgust suddenly, as he said quietly, Do you think I'll be an asshole like her? Or like his dad? Gideon would cross his arms. No, I do not. Just because you're related to someone doesn't mean you'll be like them. Look at Ava. She's nothing like me, but we're both good people. I'm not like my family. Heck, if you put me, my parents, and my siblings in a line, you'd think I was adopted. You are not an asshole, Rob. Rob's eyes flicked to Gideon, then back to the ground as he laughed in almost a scoff. I guess, yeah. It was starting to get louder with the kids on the playground screaming their heads off, and Rob winced slightly. Gideon would pick up on the wince quickly, his attention turning to Rob. Are you okay? Rob didn't answer. After a second, finally realizing he'd been spoken to, he looked up. Huh? Are you all right? Gideon asked slowly, worried about Rob. Rob would stare at him for a minute, barely being able to make out what he was saying. It's just loud, he said when he noticed the worried look on Gideon's face. Gideon nodded, relaxing a bit. Maybe we could get you with the doctor about that. It's not too loud from what I can tell. Doctor? Huh? Rob frowned. Sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. You're not being rude. I'm just making a suggestion. You can take it any way you want and do what you want to do. Rob blinked, still not understanding, and just looked down. Rob would stay quiet, rocking with his hands over his ears the whole time they were at the park, or at least until some of the kids left and it quieted down. Gideon saw Rob put his hands over his ears and looked at him. Do you want to leave, Rob? He asked. Rob didn't hear him. He just continued rocking. Gideon would reach over, gently touching Rob's shoulder to get his attention. Rob jumped a bit and looked up. Do you want to go home? Gideon repeated, looking at Rob concerned. Rob would look out of the playground and shake his head. Ava's having fun. What do you need, Rob? Gideon said, not looking over to Ava. Huh? Rob looked back over to the man. "What do you need, Rob? You're very much in distress, and I want to help you," he said softly to the boy. "What do you... No, I'm fine," Rob said softly. "Let Ava play." Gideon would press his lips, then nod slowly. "If you say so, but don't be afraid to tell me if you want to leave." "Of course." Rob put his chin in his hand and watched Ava play. Ava would be running around on the jungle gym. She'd look over to see Rob and Gideon waving at them as she went back to playing. Rob kept his ears covered as they played, and when it was finally time to go, he was relieved. Once Ava was done playing, Gideon would scoop her up, carrying her back to the apartment and letting her get ready for bed. Rob scratched his arm all the way home, staring at the ground. Even the sounds of the city seemed too much at this point. Once they were back at the apartment, everything was quiet. Gideon would turn to look at Rob. "What's really the matter, Rob? You seem uncomfortable." Rob shook his head. "It was just loud," he muttered quietly, then quickly, "I'm not lying." "I don't think you are," Gideon would say softly with a smile. "Though I do want to get you a few tests done. Make sure you're not developing new powers or have some issue with your hearing, as long as you're okay with it too." Rob looked up at the man, then back down. Yeah, okay." After a long minute, he asked the question that had been burning the back of his mind since the man had made the offer. "Gideon, how long can I stay with you?" "As long as you want," Gideon said. Rob looked up at that. "You sure?" "Of course I'm sure," Gideon said. "Though you'll probably have the place to yourself a lot. I'm kind of a workaholic." "That's fine," Rob nodded. "That's good, actually." Gideon would pat Rob on the back. "I'm glad. I'm really glad you're here and not there anymore." Rob closed his eyes at the mention of his old home. "Me too. I don't know if I would have survived if I'd stayed there. Not just because of his dad hurting him either. He worried he would have done something to himself if he'd had to go back." "They won't bother you anymore. And if they do, tell me and I'll scare them off," he said with a chuckle, waving his fingers. Rob laughed a bit at that. "It's not just them I'm worried about." "Who else has you worried?" Rob frowned slightly, then looked down. I don't want you to send me to the loony bin if I tell you." "Rob," Gideon said, kneeling down, looking him in the eye, "I would never send you there. Ever." Rob sighed and looked away from Gideon, rubbing his arm. "Because I'm afraid of myself." "You have nothing to be afraid of, Rob. Ava and I are here to help you and be there for you." Rob shook his head. "You don't get it." "I do, Rob. I really do," he'd say, pulling Rob into a hug. "Trust me, you are not alone and there is nothing to fear." Rob would remain limp at the hug. "No, I'm not afraid of me because of my powers. I'm afraid of me because I hate me. I'm afraid I'll hurt myself." His voice cracked on the last word. "Don't hate yourself, Rob," Gideon said, holding Rob's shoulders gently. "You're amazing and kind and have a good heart." Rob just shook his head. "I don't believe that." "Well, I want you to believe that, and I hope one day you'll see what I see." Rob sniffed, staring at the ground. "Thanks." Gideon would smile, nodding lightly. "Can I hug you?" "Always," Gideon said, opening his arms out for Rob to hug him. Rob hugged. "Thanks," he said a bit awkwardly. "You're welcome. Everything is going to be okay now," Gideon said, hugging Rob. "I hope so," Rob said as he pulled away. You have just finished The Psychic, Episode 8. Thanks for watching!